Rev up your engines!
Desert Rat Rich says, Scotty, I got a 16 Jeep Cherokee 3.0, 50,000 miles on it's equipped with auto start stop. I'm curious, since oil doesn't circulate when the engine stops, is this ultimately shorting my engine life? And since I use the starter more, can I expect starter failure more often? Well, yes and yes. Of course, the most wear on your engine occurs on startup. And they claim that the stop-start cars have better bearings in the engine and stuff. Load of hoo-ha as far as I'm concerned. Plus, they claim the starters are better built. I replace more of those starters than any other cars because they do wear out faster. But starters aren't all that expensive. That's not that big of a deal. It's the engine that, when you're well out of warranty age and the engine breaks because the top of the engine, the cams aren't getting oil because it drains down. It keeps starting them up, drains down, starting it up. Especially if you're sitting for any length of time, a few minutes, it'll really, all the oil will drain down. It's a stupid thing. It's a stopgap technology to get better gas mileage. It's a load of crap they're selling people. If I had a car like that, I would disable it so it would never come on because engines cost a lot of money for the tiny amount of gas you're saving. It's plain stupid. Chrysler 2007 TC Touring says, I got a 2000 Taurus I need to keep up and running. It's barely hanging on. After it's warmed up and shut down, it wants to stay not running at idle until I rev it up. When I check the transmission level in cold, it reads higher than max. Then I check it when it's been running, it reads low. Should I add Lucas or should I drain it first? Thanks. I can't wait till I save up enough money to buy a Tacoma. Well, that's a very smart move there. Yes, do save up your money. What I'd advise you to do is, now, it could easily be your transmission fluid is all worn out because you say it's high and then it's low, and the filter could be clogged up. If you've changed the fluid regularly, change the fluid and filter now. Now, if you've never changed it and you do that, it might not run at all. So in that case, what I'd advise you to do is what guys have done in the past, is take the pan off and drain the fluid out, but save it in a clean pan. Then replace just the filter. The filter in the transmission could be clogged up. Put a new filter on and then put the old fluid back in. Because if you put new fluid in, that old, it could start slipping and not working at all. But it could be the filter is clogged up, and that could be almost all your problem. Pray it's that easy, and it'll last a little bit longer. But don't change the fluid and filter if it hasn't been changed regularly, because if you do, it could just start slipping and not work at all. Use the old fluid over, but do put a new filter in. Change the filter's always good. That doesn't hurt anything. Chanman says, Scotty got 2011 Lexus IS 250, 140,000 miles. It has a lot of moisture in the passenger headlight assembly. Any tips on getting this resolved? Well, yeah, if moisture's in there, it means it's leaking somewhere. If you can look all around and see a crack or something, get clear silicone, seal it, and then you can take the bulb out, stick a hair dryer in there with a little nozzle, and dry it out so it's dry. But let's say it's just completely, the seam is going and everything. Here's a trick that I've done for years. You can get under there, and you can drill a hole in the bottom of the assembly. It's plastic. And when you drill a hole in the bottom of the assembly, any water that gets inside is going to drip down that hole on the bottom. And as long as you're still using halogen light bulbs, they get real hot and they will evaporate all the moisture. And it'll evaporate out the hole because the moisture will go out of the hole. Unfortunately, if you have LEDs, that doesn't do much because LEDs don't put on enough heat to boil the water vapor to make it go back out. That's why a lot of guys say in Canada, they don't want LEDs. They want halogen bulbs, because not only that, but they get ice in the winter, and the LEDs will never melt the ice on the headlights. Halogens get hot enough, they melt the ice. So sometimes a little heat is a good thing if you live in a cold climate where there's ice outside in the winter. Liquid Snake says, Scotty, I got a 2010 Ford Escape, 205,000 miles, never had a problem. A few days ago, the car revs up and does a hard shift from second to third and fourth to fifth. Could it be a dirty transmission? I've never had the service done. Thanks from Detroit. Here's the problem. You're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's a Ford. I would have changed the fluid and filter on that thing every 30, 40,000 miles because they're notorious for weak transmissions. That's never been done. You got 205,000 miles. If you change the fluid and filter now, it may stop shifting entirely and slip and you can't even drive. So my advice would be, since it's shifting bad now, try this as a last ditch attempt because it's probably going to need to be rebuilt. Take out 1 quart of transmission fluid and put 1 quart of Lucas transmission fix in. Drive a couple of 100 miles and pray it gets fixed. Now, if it doesn't get fixed, have a guy like me road test it with this fancy scan tool. Maybe you got lucky and shift solenoids are breaking down and you only have to spend hundreds of dollars replacing shift solenoids instead of thousands rebuilding a transmission. That would be the absolute last thing you could do before you either get rid of the car or have to pay for an entire rebuild. And on an Escape with 205,000 miles, I don't think you want to spend, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on something like that. I wouldn't. There we go. GM just said that they're going to sell only zero-emission cars by 2035. Well, that's 15 years down the line. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? But let's put on our thinking caps. What are late-model General Motors cars known for? Electrical problems. Now, do you really want to buy a low-quality GM car when it's all electric and that's the only thing that's there? Not me, unless, who knows? That's 2035. That's 15 years down the line. Maybe they'll make them better by then. Who knows, I'm not holding my breath on that one, though. It'd be like buying an Italian car for longevity. Not a smart move, Or buying a Porsche or a Mercedes that's cheap to repair with low-priced parts and real low labor costs. I'm not going to be staying up at night losing sleep on that one either. But of course, they're all jumping on the electric bandwagons. Well, look at the past where people promise flying cars in 10 years. Well, that's not going to happen either. We'll see what happens 15 years from now, And this is all when the economy's flying. And then when recessions and depressions come, then, hey, people don't have money to buy that stuff. They're going to keep their old stuff and keep it going. So who knows what the actual future is. I just find it humorous that GM's jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, we're going to not do nothing but electric cars by 2035 because they don't pollute. Well, what they don't realize is a lot of General Motors cars, they don't pollute already because they're broken and people can't drive them. Here's something you won't see in the United States, but you can see in Japan. The 2020 Lexus can come with digital mirrors. Instead of glass mirrors for the sides, they're digital cameras. And then inside the car are placed the monitors. Now, they're not selling these in the United States. There's all kinds of regulations over you got to have mirrors, yada, yada. But when I look at these pictures of here's these monitors on the left and right side. One, it's cluttering. You got this big old monitor sitting there instead of the mirror. And number two, what happens if you get in a wreck? You might whack your head on that monitor. It's a big monitor. One's on the left side and one's on the right side. They have to make it so that you're still looking in the same type of area because people are used to looking to the left and looking to the right to see what's next to them. They're having these in Japan because they say, well, look, it also reduces wind noise because instead of a big old mirror, you got a little bitty camera sitting on the side, looking in the side view mirrors. If you ask me, they've taken it a step too far. You take simple technology, a mirror, there it is. Simple, it always works, And you know what's going to happen is if they actually did put these on all cars, cameras are going to get broken, and then people are going to find out, oh my God, it cost me $500-600 to fix that, so I won't fix it at all, and they'll go without any side view cameras or mirrors because they're not going to spend that kind of money. Let's stick to simple technology, plain old mirrors that you can look and see what's happening there. They're not going to break down. And I mean, yeah, the more modern cars in the United States, they have the traffic warning signals in the mirror, so it flashes and warns you that a car is coming. But you see it when you look at the mirror, not some monitor that's either on the left corner for the driver or the right front by the passenger for the driver to look at when he sees. People are getting carried away with technology yet again. In Minnesota says I got an 09 Toyota Sienna, 130,000 miles, front-wheel drive. Check engine light came on, it's an oxygen sensor. The Toyota is $250, the Rock Auto Special is $50. What should I buy? The Toyotas come with Denso, Nip and Denso, they keep changing names, but that's what they come with. But Toyota doesn't make them. Denso does. Nip and Denso. As long as you buy a Denso replacement, you can buy it anywhere you want. You don't want to use a cheap aftermarket one that's Bosch or some Chinese company. No, that you don't because that vehicle has what's called the air-fuel ratio sensor. It's more fancy than an oxygen sensor. It looks the same, it bolts in the exhaust the same, but it's much more complex. Now, you don't care where you buy it from, if it's a Denso or Nip and Denso, you don't care because the same company's making it. When I buy those, I won't go to the dealer and pay $250. I go to auto parts stores and I say, hey, you got the Denso? How much does it cost? And then when I can get the best price at, that's where I buy it from. I will never use a Bosch. I've tried Bosch and ones that had Denso. They wouldn't work right half the time. You got to get the Denso, but you don't have to buy it from the dealer. Buy it wherever you can find the Denso because Toyota buys it from them. They don't make them themselves. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.